Thank you for spending another midweek moment with the Wisconsin property taxpayers. I'm Paul Rozeski. Today is Wednesday, February the 4th, 2026. Thanks for being here. Before we jump into some headlines, let's take a quick look at the week ahead. First, something cool in Wisconsin. If you're still looking to lean into winter and enjoy the cold outdoors, you can hit the St. Germain Radar Run, which is essentially snowmobile drag racing on Little St. Germain Lake, or partake in the Winter Festival in Green Bay on the shores of Green Bay. However, if you've had enough, you want to just lean into spring, one of the largest fishing expos in the Midwest, the Wisconsin Fishing Expo, is at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison this weekend. If you're looking to lean into life based on current events, feels like celebrating Hug a GI Day today is timely. I do endorse celebrating that. What I don't endorse is how National Be Nasty Day and International Women's Day are on the same day. Whoever put those 2 days together, that is entirely uncalled for in every circumstance I could possibly think of. If you are looking to celebrate that, you can celebrate on Saturday, but please celebrate responsibly. Speaking of what people are and aren't endorsing, this week we look at getting a tax cut done with our state surplus, partisan gerrymandering, and wrap it all up with a quote from a POTUS whose wife once used the unfinished East Room of the White House as a laundry room. Without further ado, let's jump into some news together. And this week, let's start out with our state budget surplus. There have been plenty of ideas on what to do with it, and we've already covered that once the Republicans got done bickering with each other and then pouting and then bickering some more, they sent a proposal to the governor, which he very publicly shot down. Well, last week, the governor was at an event and talked about a bunch of issues at length, including the tax cut. Here are some of what I considered the highlights of what he said. When talking about what he wants to see done with the surplus, his answer was property tax cuts because, and I quote, equalized aid can be viewed as property tax relief. Special education can be seen as property tax relief, unquote. That's interesting. It can be seen that way, but should it be? It's like someone saying, I saved $100 because this was priced at $200 and I bought it at 50% off. No, you spent $100 instead of $200, but you still spent $100. By definition, saving money is the opposite of spending money. And yes, I jumped in there with that, but at least the governor isn't trying to pull some sneakiness here. He comes clean with his true motivation in the very next sentence. Quote, we need to make a huge investment in our schools, unquote. And there you have it, folks. That's his goal. He's just calling the other stuff kind of sort of property tax cuts to make it sound better. And that's not all, because when the moderator asked more about tax cuts and whether an income tax cut was still on the table in the negotiations, he shot back, not in my world. He went on to explain that he sees income tax cuts as Republicans playing politics because elections are coming up. Here are the quotes of what the governor said in his answer about why he's against income tax rebates, pulled right out of the you can't make this stuff up file. Quote, I don't think that's wise. We can use that money better, unquote. Are you kidding me? He actually came right out and said it. It is better for the government to spend this money than to give it back to the taxpayer. I am shocked. Anyway, here's how he wrapped up his answer. He talks about the Republicans and the tax cuts. Quote, they're going to be advocating for sending the money directly to folks. You know, that's an election year issue. I just don't think that's wise. Money for schools, unquote. What more can I say? The government exists to spend and set restrictions. In other news, don't forget we have the 7th highest property tax burden in the union. In other news, and staying with the governor, he made good on his promise to sign an executive order calling for a special session of the legislature to amend the Wisconsin state constitution and make partisan gerrymandering illegal. Well, as you can imagine, there was a big collective sigh from the Republicans, but interestingly enough, the legislative Democrats have been far more quiet about this than I would have expected. Only maybe a press release or two from lawmakers, and I actually don't remember seeing any lawmakers at the press conference where he announced and signed the order. So, anyway, Senate Democrat leader Dianne Hasselbein did release a statement, and essentially it was mostly just political talking points about Wisconsin Republicans gerrymandering and Trump gerrymandering in Texas. It's kind of funny. Quote, in Texas, Trump showed he is focused on doing everything he can to create Republican advantages in critical upcoming elections, unquote. Meanwhile, she could have written the sentence, quote, in California, Newsom showed he is focused on doing everything he can to create Democrat advantages in critical upcoming elections, unquote. So, spare me, Diane. But what I thought was interesting, here, the last sentence of her press release, quote, I am a fighter, and my commitment is to make sure the people of Wisconsin have a strong voice in their democracy and that Democrats have the resources and tools to fully participate in whatever redistricting process may occur in the future, unquote. Translation, I'm not going to be pushing for this. And why would she? The Senate already has a thin margin for the Republicans, and if 2 seats flip, it'll be in Democrat control. It's only a few years until the official redistricting happens again in 2030, and if Democrats have the majority, they can control the tweaking and the shifting of districts, and they can have their thumb on the scale instead of the Republicans. So yeah, she basically, by saying nothing, she called it a great big nothing burger from a lame duck governor. The Democrats haven't had control for a long time, and once they may actually get it back, why would they be fighting to simultaneously give the power away? Not a chance. She hardly even acknowledged the idea, even though there will be shouting at the gavel in, gavel out session that the Senate will do for not doing anything in the special session. It'll all just be theater, just like the press release was. Manufactured outrage to fuel political momentum, but in reality, the legislature will always want to say in what their districts look like instead of giving that power away to an independent committee. And finally, I give you a quote from POTUS number 2, the Deuce, John Adams, who was the first president to move into the White House, and since it still wasn't quite done, his wife, Abigail, resorted to hanging their laundry in the West Wing to dry. It was John who said, quote, power always thinks it has a great soul and vast views beyond the comprehension of the weak, unquote. Boy, did he nail that one. Governor Evers, knowing in his heart it's better for him to decide where to spend the money than to give you back your tax dollars. Heck, the legislature found something bipartisan to agree on. We should hoard the power we have instead of giving it away and promoting fairness. Your government hard at working to protect its self-interest. Have a great second half of your weekend. As always, thanks for listening. Wisconsin Property Taxpayers Inc. is a nonpartisan membership organization consisting of thousands of small business, farm, and homeowner members in every corner of the state. Founded in 1985, the organization is committed to providing its members with up-to-date information, legislative advocacy, and exclusive cost-saving benefits. Find out how to join at wptonline.org/join.